Hello and happy Wednesday. I know you guys are used to hearing me saying hello and happy Tuesday. I know it's not Tuesday. So it's Wednesday, and this is the fourth episode of the fourth season of the Open Heart Collective. And we had to do it on Wednesday night because my birthday was Monday. So I kind of shifted literally my entire night, like my entire life back a day, because I tried to take a singular night off. I know, crazy. I don't ever do that. But I had the pleasure of meeting our special guest tonight a little over a month ago at a music conference in Long Beach, New York. And we connected instantly because we're like, okay, I'm awkward, you're awkward. So we're going to kind of like have an awkward conversation. And then we found out that not only are we both in the music space, but obviously we met at a music conference, but we're also both in the mental health space. So we had lunch, we had a great conversation, and I said, all right, Katie, I got to get you on the Open Heart Collective. So ipso facto, that brings us to tonight. So Katie, welcome to the Open Heart Collective.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So for those of you guys who don't know don't know this show, don't know how it works, it's an open, raw, real life conversation about mental health. But we're not the type of program that focuses just on the darkness, just on the obstacles. And that's Siri telling me that it doesn't know how to respond to me because I lifted my arm up and opted to talk. But so we're gonna get to know Katie tonight. We're gonna know a little bit of her story, not just her story. So what were some of those dark times, some of those obstacles she's had to overcome to get to where she is now. And then last but certainly not least, we're going to find out what's exciting in her world right now, because oftentimes when we're talking about mental health, the conversation stops at the darkness. And we want to show and give hope to those people who are currently struggling that there is indeed a reason to stay. And so with no further ado, Katie.
Well, hi.
Hello.
I am Katie. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited to be here. I am a wellness coach for women in the music industry. So talking about this kind of stuff is my jam. And it's really important to me to continue sharing my story and also just kind of open the conversation here, because I think the more we're talking about it, the more normal it becomes. And
exactly.
The less scary it is to bring it up when we might need to talk about what's going on in our lives. So,
right.
Yeah.
So now I will let you control your narrative here. You can tell us as much or as little as you want. Now, I will say this, though. This is a safe space. So I encourage you to actually share what you want to share and not try to hide, because I know a lot of us, when we're in the, oh my God, we're talking mental health, like it's scary, it's awkward, it's weird. Like, what do I talk about? What's okay to talk about? Literally, this is your space, as it is with every guest that's on the show, as it is with every member of this community. So the floor is yours. Tell us your story. Tell us what you want to of your story, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm actually at the point now in my career of being like, man, I've told this story so many times. I feel like I got to get a new spin to it or something. Like,
I mean, you can test out a new spin tonight if you want.
Yeah, I don't think I'm that clever. I can't think on the spot in that way. But I mean, really, it's not like everyone is listening to every podcast or I've ever been on or every time I've ever talked about it.
You might have some advocates. You never know.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. But yeah, my journey really started with anxiety when I was in college. And it kind of manifested itself at the beginning with some mixed signals. Like, I was struggling, and at the time I was kind of like, is this like low blood sugar? Is this just like stress of school? I didn't really know. And actually, I will tell a part of my story that I don't talk about often or really at all, because I don't really know what it was. But I think that while right up still today, I really identify with having anxiety, and that's the biggest struggle that I've been through. But I think that when my first year of college, looking back in retrospect, and only several years later looking back, that I realized this, that I think I was like mildly depressed. Like, I was just not doing well. I was in a major funk, but I had been kind of in a world where being in a funk or like feeling like shit was like normal.
You can, by the way, you can openly curse on the show.
Yeah,
like,
I have a really dirty mouth, so I try to like, ease
every episode gets the explicit tag, because again, raw, real life human beings up
yeah.
here, right, guys? We aren't always filtered, and that's okay. So continue.
So yeah, I mean, like, I feel like in high school, it was just like, I went to an all-girls school where everyone was really smart. Like, I'm just going to be blunt. And then it was all-girls school, so we had a brother school, which was all guys, and all of the guys there were really, really smart. And because of that, a lot of them...
Wait a second. Why did the guys get the really, really, and the women only get the singular really?
Because the guy school, it was like, you had to be really smart, and you got to go for free. Like, because... Like, it was like that kind of school.
It was one of those.
We still had like pay to go. My hair is getting caught in my chair. This is like real life. So
I'm constantly straightening out the beanie because I'm looking into multiple different camera angles.
I know, it's hard, right? I'm like, I look better in this camera, so maybe I should just keep looking there. But okay, but anyway, so yeah, I went to a high school where I didn't struggle with anything there, but I do remember having friends and having people close to me, and even an ex-boyfriend who was just kind of like, it was exciting to like be sad, and it was like cool to like stay up late and like be struggling and like have all this stuff that you're going through and doing and whatnot. And I never really like succumbed to it. I don't know what the proper word there is, but
I'm not sure either.
It was fine in high school.
We'll Google that after. If somebody knows, leave it.
Yeah, leave it in the comments, please. I'm not a grammar person, clearly. But when I got into college, and so I went to high school in New York City, and I went to college in New York City, and I commuted to both high school and in my first year and a half of college from a little bit up north in New York, in Westchester. So when I went to college, nothing changed aside from the fact that I was in college with a brand new set of people and new classes, but I was like doing the same thing. Like, I was taking the train down, I was doing the commute, I was going to a school, but everything felt like it was like the rug was ripped from underneath me, but yet I was stuck in like very similar patterns. Because I was doing very similar things, but without all of the like comforts and the friends that I had and the teachers that I had. And so it was really, really weird. And at the time I was in a relationship that just like was pretty toxic, and just, I look back at that time and I'm like, dang, I mean, I don't really think about it too much and I don't really talk about it too much, but I think that was the start of like stuff happening. And then about a year later, I was on the subway and I had a few instances where I was having panic attacks. But at the time, again, it was like, is this low blood sugar? Like, I'm shaky. I'm like dizzy. I'm like sweating. My palms are all sweaty and like just didn't feel good. And of course, for anybody who's in a city, you get this. You don't want to be on public transportation and like feel like you're gonna faint. That's not a fun thing.
And it's not a safe thing either.
No, not at all. Especially in New York. You don't know what's gonna happen. So I had been coming up from class to Westchester. So just for some perspective on New York, to get to Westchester, it's not like the subway where you just hop on and go. You have to get a timed train. So I would have to like run from class, like get on the subway up to the train station to get on a specific time train to make it up north to get the kids that I was babysitting from school. So I'm in this time. It's around lunchtime. I'm like on the subway, full blown panic. Am I going to make the train? Am I going to have time to grab food? Am I going to be late to pick up the kids? What happens if I don't pick up the kids? Just like full hot mess, like not a good situation. And again, I would be texting my mom, like, this is happening again. I don't know what to do. And my mom was like, okay, let's get your blood sugar taken. So I did the whole test for that because at the time it was like, it seemed like that was the obvious answer. Like, it was around lunchtime. I had eaten. That was what was happening. In retrospect, I believe it was a combination of the things. I mean, my tests show I'm not kind of on the bottom of blood sugar. It's something that I do have to watch, and it definitely triggers anxiety for me. And that was a time where I started to make slow changes without really knowing what was going on, but just based on what I was feeling. So I was feeling like if I didn't eat, or if I had too much coffee, or any coffee really, or if I had alcohol, I would at any point unexpectedly go into this like episode, whatever I wanted to call it. So yeah, so I ended up cutting out those things. Like, I just started without knowing what was happening. I cut out coffee and I cut out alcohol. because I just couldn't deal with it. And it would hit randomly and unexpectedly. One day I could drink coffee and be fine. One day I couldn't. So that went on for a little while. And then this is like years, right? This is like years of me figuring this out, because then I went and studied abroad in Paris, and this stuff kind of continued, but I was like pretty good. And when I got back from Paris, my junior year of college, I got back, it was May, so it was the end of the year, going into summer and then going into senior year. I was not 21 yet because I have a late birthday. So
December, as we discussed before.
Yes, December 6th. So I was like the last person on earth to turn 21. Of my
Except for the person who was like December 27th.
Yeah, but I'm not friends with any December 27thers. So everyone in my world.
If anybody who's listening to or watching this in live or in the replay, please comment or send a message if you were born on December 27th. I'm really just curious.
I'm curious too, and if you were born later than me, let me know. But yeah, I had the late birthday, and I remember I had just gotten back, so I'm still kind of adjusting to like being in a new time zone and coming back from a whole experience studying abroad. And it was my best friend's 21st birthday, and the morning of, I was just in my room, and then I got into the shower, and I was like, panic is back. Like, I'm in the shower, nothing's wrong, and I feel like I'm gonna just like faint, and my heart is pounding so fast, and I'm dizzy, and I don't feel good, and I'm shaking. And at the time too, I had, kind of said like, what is happening? And my mom was like, maybe you're just coming down with something, maybe you're just sick. And I was like, it's not that. Like, in that moment, I knew like this is something else. This is anxiety. And I texted my only friend who has been like open about her anxiety that I knew. And I said, what does it feel like when you have a panic attack? Does it feel like this? And she was like, yes. And I was like, okay, I think I just had one. Thank you for like confirming this.
Right.
So that was my experience. And then luckily I didn't go to the party. I ended up texting my friend being like, I don't know what's happening, but I don't feel good, and I'm really sorry, but I can't come. But it made sense, right? Like, I cut out alcohol because this would happen. So I don't drink. And I was still at a point in my life where I didn't drink, but I also wasn't being like, I don't drink. I was sort of being like, I drink when I feel like it. But then that always opened the door for people to pressure me to drink, or like constantly ask me what was up, and I'd have to tell them and whatever.
Which leads to more anxiety.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to have to show up to this party and then be like dodging drinks the whole night, and then just like, telling the story about why I don't do it, because every person asks when they find out you don't drink. It like is this whole thing. That's a whole nother topic that I could probably rant on, but
I mean, this is why the show is an hour. So I mean, we can give as much of that as you want to.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, I'm over it now, because I think I've gotten to the point where most people who know me well know that I don't drink and they don't bother. But even on my 21st birthday, I had people pressuring me like, we're going to get you so drunk. And I was like, no. Like, that's... so, yeah. I think there's a lot to be said there. Just people not quite understanding that and finding it odd. I think if you like are an alcoholic, it's easier to be like, I'm sober. But for people where it's a choice, but it's a choice still for a reason, or even if they don't have a reason, here's like a little tidbit of just try to give people compassion. You don't always have to be so nosy about why people are doing things or not doing things. And so that's definitely something I ran into, and definitely felt anxious about that. Definitely felt anxious about the fact that I was under 21 and, didn't want to like ruin my best friend's birthday by like not getting into stuff. My fake ID wasn't good enough, all that kind of stuff. So I didn't go to the party. I felt like shit because I didn't go. And that's where, of course, the guilt comes in of like, God damn it, this is holding me back. Like, I'm not doing something that I want to do because like I really can't. But also I feel guilty because now I let someone down. So that was when all of that really started to creep in. And I had a doctor's appointment already scheduled for 3 days later. I went into that appointment 3 days later with my heart still pounding. Like, I was still in a panic attack. That was the worst it had ever been. Yeah, like, I could not come down. I would go to bed every night and be like, please just, like, stop. Like, my heart was thumping out of my chest. And so I showed up, and pretty quickly they were like, yeah, sounds like you have generalized anxiety disorder. And I was like, yeah, sounds like I do. I could, sounds about right. So
I could have told you that because I have something called Google that tells me what I.
Yeah, I'm like, already knew that, but I do appreciate you putting it on my record now.
Right, like,
and
yeah.
yeah, stamp, yeah. But they didn't really do much for me, which I don't know what I expected. My doctor just told me to look into cognitive behavioral therapy, which I still have not to this day. So, oops, I don't know. I ended up, though, just operating like I do with most things, which was being open about it. And again, that's why I kind of say, I've told this story so many times, I don't know if I can find something new, because I've just felt that the best way to go about it for me was to just be like, all right, people, this is what's happening. Bear with me. And I know that's not the case for everyone, but because it was for me, I felt it even more important to do that, because hopefully I can, be not an inspiration, but just show other people that, like, this is normal. Like I said, I had that one friend who I could go to and say, is this what it's like to have a panic attack? So if I could just be that person for other people to talk about it, so that if it ever happens to them, or if they ever feel any type of way, they know that they're not alone and that it is normal and they can identify
Absolutely. it. And that's, I mean, the mental health and mental health resources and the insurance industry, and I mean, that's a whole ball of wax and problem area for so many things, just because, much like what you said, right? They saw you, they stamped you, and then they kind of more or less said, hey, we think you should check this out, and then sent you on your way.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, what the fuck does that mean?
Yep.
What does that get me? And you're a person who is intelligent enough, not saying that other people aren't, so I got to watch my words carefully on this one. Again, live show.
No, I know what you mean.
You had
I'm
the
very in
wherewithal
touch.
enough to seek it from other people.
Yeah.
So and that's a lot of what I've done. I mean, I've never been diagnosed as having suffered with depression or bipolar or anxiety or any of those things, but I know enough of what's happened because I've been involved with so many other people who have been clinically depressed, who have been labeled with bipolar 1, bipolar 2, have been labeled with anxiety disorders, generalized or specific to certain circumstances. So it's been one of those things where it's like, I'm just one of you guys, right? I'm the same. I'm suffered too, like much like you. I mean, I've told my story countless times also, and it's all just to show people that it's okay and that they're not alone, and that it's okay to not be okay, right?
Yeah, totally. And keeping in mind too, like, I do consider myself to be pretty emotionally intelligent, if you will, and I'm very, very in touch with what I'm doing, and almost sometimes to the detriment, because I think I can, like, talk myself out of stuff, like, oh, I know exactly what's going on and we'll fix it right here. And it's like, okay, ask for help, but still, like, let's not forget, it still took me almost 3 years to get from the point of feeling really down freshman year of college to feeling like I need to go to the doctor and get someone to tell me what's going on, because I'm pretty sure it's anxiety. It was really still 3 years. And I don't always think about it like that until right now. But it was a long time. It wasn't like immediately I was like, oh, this happened and I know exactly what it is. It took a while.
Right. And that's another thing. So, I mean, so 3 years until you, from the time that you started dealing with it and having to deal with it to the moment that you got help to now, how long of a time period has this actually been when you look at the timeline?
7 years? Yeah.
Right.
7 years. So, I mean, it's been a while now, but from when I got help, from when I was diagnosed, I would say that's like 4 years, I guess. And there's been a big difference since then. Like, in the last 4 years, it's made a big difference. And I know you don't, like you said, like, you've never been officially diagnosed. For some people, that's probably not necessary. For me, it was helpful just because, especially with a family who's very much like, doctors and like, here's the test results and stuff like that. It's helpful to be like, they told me, like, they said it, it's real.
It does exist.
Yeah, as stupid as that might sound, it like, sometimes having a label on it helps you, and it helped me to actually be like, all right, this is what I'm dealing with. Like, let's get going on, doing what I can to deal with this specifically. Like the low blood sugar, like, all right, I know what to do. It's eat all the time, have food on me, have water on me, like, be prepared, that kind of thing. But what do I do when that's not enough and that's not what's really at the root of the problem? I have to now go beyond that and figure out what else is triggering me and what else I can do to ease the actual anxiety part of it.
Right. And so now that you've kind of given us a little bit of your story, and we're starting to talk about some of those moments when you were first starting to feel anxiety and when you were dealing with that, like what were some of the things that you found worked for you in order to like effectively navigate through those moments that happen?
Yeah. At first, it was literally just being honest, because that was the only thing I knew to do. So
with yourself or everybody else and yourself?
Everyone, the whole shebang, everyone. So literally, I mean, I was honest with myself pretty quickly. Like, okay, I know this is happening. Great. Now I know what this looks like. Eventually, I was able to figure out a few different kind of types of anxiety that I have, if that makes sense. And I can talk about that a little bit.
Right.
Basically, obviously, there's the full-blown panic attack, which is like what got me to notice that something was wrong. But I also, from that, was able to figure out that doesn't happen that often for me, right? It's not all the time. At the beginning, maybe, but I'm not really sitting around every day being like, I'm sweating and I'm going to faint kind of feeling. That's a very particular kind of thing. But there's I have one sort of like type of anxiety where I shut down and I kind of like, it's a lot of people will look at it and maybe think that it's depression, but it's more of just like, I get really in my head and I just like want to lie in bed and not talk to anyone. That doesn't happen a lot either, because ever since I was able to put 2 and 2 together that it was anxiety that I was feeling, I kind of, and now this doesn't work for everything and everyone, but I kind of was able to say to myself, okay, I know what this is and I know what I need to do now. And what I need to do is go find someone that I can talk to about anything else but this that gets my mind on whatever put me here. I remember once I was feeling this way because I was living in the city. This was when I was still in college, and I had like kind of recently broken up with my boyfriend, and it was the Super Bowl Sunday, and I don't care. Like, I literally could give 2 shits about football. Sorry for the football fans out there. It's just never been my jam.
It's okay. It's okay. We accept your apology.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay.
On behalf of everyone.
I mean, but I love the Super Bowl because it's always been a time for me to be with my family and eat really good food, which is, I think, why most of us love the Super Bowl. So I was sitting in my apartment in New York. All of my roommates had left. I was all alone. It's Super Bowl Sunday. I don't care enough about the Super Bowl to actually put it on and watch it myself, but I was feeling really down because I, at the time, was sort of like, not in a fight with my parents, but like, there was a little bit of tension, and I was just like allowing that to get to me. I'm like, oh, I'm moping around, feeling like crap, feeling like I've shut down in my bed. And I made the decision of like, what do I want right now that would change this? And what I want is to be with people. So I got my ass on a train. I went up to Westchester and I hung out with my family for 4 hours, slept over, and then went back home early the next morning. And it seems really simple, right? I know that's like not your standard anxiety thing, but like sometimes that is what it has to look like. It is just you acknowledging what's going on and how can you change that with a very simple thing. And I think sometimes with anxiety, it's like, oh, it has to be like something really dramatic is happening, or, you know, it's really hard to get out of it. It's really hard to come out of this feeling. But the truth is, I mean, sometimes it is. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's not. And what I've learned is sometimes it's really just about being in touch with what you need and then fucking doing it. Like asking for what you need or doing what you need to do.
Novel concept, everybody.
I know.
Actually knowing what you need and then asking for it, right? And when this show was started, right? It came out, or we launched it in March of 2018 was our first episode. And I was feeling, I mean, being in the music industry, seeing the lack of open vulnerability, seeing the lack of people actually having these conversations, and seeing then people who I look up to, and I don't want to say idolize, but people that I respect and who have inspired me a great deal within music, losing these battles that can be won just because we create safe spaces for them to be open and vulnerable in.
Yeah.
And now, fast forward, I mean, almost 2 years later, we're here now creating these places and understanding that what worked for Katie is not going to work for you, but it might not work for you. But that's okay, because it gives you something to try if it is indeed that's something that you're struggling with. But you don't know unless you actually actively engage. And if you don't actively engage and you're not being vulnerable and you're not asking for help, which, I mean, being an entrepreneur and being in the music industry, how often do we, any of us, ask for help? Like, I'm horrible at it, admittedly horrible at it. And now I'm in a position where it's like, fuck, I kind of actually need help. And I was like, I don't know whoever holds a phone like this anymore, but like, you're like, I kind of need help with this. Like, do you know, like, and then you have to eat, like, you're like, well, I have to eat a little bit of crow and say, well, I don't know it all after all. And I mean, being a recovering perfectionist, a recovering codependent, a recovering, like, all of these things, it's like, okay, now I guess fine. Okay, sure, I'll ask for help this time.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are in the same position. Like, this is why this is here, because it's showing people that they can ask for help. Even if that help is to say, I don't want to talk about this thing, talk about something else.
Yeah. And for a lot of times, so that was kind of the two, right? The panic attack, the shutdown, that's what I call it. And then the third one, which can kind of border both if you want, it's almost in the middle, but it's just that, like, feeling like it's just nothing. It's almost just nothing. Like, you're just like, something's wrong, but like, I can't, it's just like something doesn't feel good in your chest and like in your heart. And maybe you feel like a little just shaky and uneasy and like a little anxious and like you don't really know what to do. And in either three of those instances, I mean, sometimes what the solution is for me is just to go out and distract myself. And sometimes it is to talk about it. So like, there's no right or wrong, but it is just being in touch with yourself. And I love what you said about kind of not wanting to admit that you don't know something. As I'm a Sagittarius and just like stubborn person who thinks that they are right all the time.
No.
Yes.
I don't believe it. I'm kidding.
Well, you're wrong.
I completely believe it. Case in point, ladies and gentlemen.
But one of the kind of reframes that I made was just like, me asking for help has nothing to do with me not knowing. It actually makes me smarter to ask for help, because then I'm getting the answer. I'm figuring out what I don't know. Because what would be worse is me being wrong, but then acting like I'm not wrong. And then, like, where does that get me? Just nowhere. Like, it makes me look like an ass. So that's what I love that point, because it is important. Like, who gives a shit? First of all, you're not wrong because you don't know something. You're not wrong because you need to get out of your head or express something that's going on. I mean, honestly, that's not even relevant here. There is no right or wrong. So asking for help, has nothing to do with your self-worth or your knowledge or anything like that. It just has to do with you being confident enough and being willing enough to put yourself out there in some ways and to allow other people to do, and I don't want to say allow other people to help you through it, because sometimes it's just, they don't need to really help you. They don't need to give you advice or whatever. It's
just need to be present.
Exactly. To be present with you and for you and give you their time and attention in whatever way that might be. And just to be there, just to support you in whatever way that might be.
Yeah. And that's why community is so important. That's why social media is so important, because so many of us, social media, let me rewind. Social media can go one of two ways, right? It can go the way that a lot of people interpret it to be, where it's negative, where it's constant sales pitch, constant conversion, like constant business, like whatever the case may be. And then you have the side where it's like, we can actually have real life conversations with humans anywhere in the world at any given time. So I'm very much a believer of, like social media is the real life epitome of the line in the Spider-Man movies, right? Where it's with great power comes great responsibility. And that's exactly what this platform is.
Yeah.
And these tools are. They're great power. And so many of us just squander the responsibility and don't do it the right way and have ulterior motives or something even more sinister than that. And this is the moment where Ryan just has a mental lapse in what he was going to say next.
No, yeah, I totally agree with you though. There's two ways you can use it, and you can use it to connect with people, or you can use it to have comparisonitis and to doubt and to feel
comparisonitis. That was what I was gonna try to bring up. You stole the word. Thank you.
I got you. I'm talking all about comparisonitis this week, and I have a masterclass coming up on Monday, so that's like on the brain right now.
Is the masterclass on comparisonitis?
It's not all on comparisonitis. It's on the 4 mindset shifts you can make to really manifest and step into your dream artist career. So we're gonna be covering that. Yeah.
Interesting. So you talked about the 3 now. And you talked about a little bit about kind of how you navigated through those specific things. Is there any one thing that you tried that was like, this didn't work for me, or this really did work for me? Something to where, okay, somebody who's listening or watching this is like, okay, cool, I've got this, everything stops kind of thing going on. Like, okay, if I like this worked for her, this didn't work. It kind of give you the ability to, I don't want to say learn from others' mistakes, but learn from others' experiences.
Yeah. There wasn't much that didn't work for me, although after taking a second to think about it, I think the one thing that comes to mind is like working out. I think a lot of times that was like, I don't know if that's really the case anymore, but at least at the beginning, it was very much like, oh, feeling like kind of anxious or like in a funk, just work out and like get those endorphins going and like all your problems will be solved. And the reason I say that didn't work for me is because that would make it worse for me. I do yoga, and yoga is something that has helped me, but I think there's like kind of a fine line, because for a while I had to do very gentle yoga. I was not even doing intense workouts. I was doing like at home Pilates and like at home like cardio stuff.
Right.
You would break a sweat, it would get your heart rate going, but it wasn't like I was, running freaking marathons or anything. But I had to stop because at the very beginning of my journey, I was doing a combination of yoga and Pilates, and I just couldn't do it. Like, I would be in my room, and then I don't know what was happening, but it was almost like my brain thought that I was having a panic attack when my body would work out and experience the same things of like, my heart rate is fast and I'm sweating. And maybe I even feel a little lightheaded because I exerted myself exercising. But then I would get really panicky about it once I hit that point, because it mimicked the symptoms that I had very recently experienced as panic attacks. And I was so afraid to go back to that point that it would just like escalate out of hand, right? It was almost like it triggered anxiety because my body was remembering this reaction that I had as a panic
Interesting.
attack. Yeah. So again, like, this is not the case for everyone. Like, for a lot of people, working out is really helpful. And for me, to this day, I just ebb and flow with what works for me. I really only do yoga and have dance parties. So that's kind of like my 2 like ways that I work out, so to say. But I have to figure out, like, do I need something slower right now? Or do I need, because sometimes it is helpful for me. If I'm really in my head, sometimes it's helpful to do a faster paced yoga class, because then I'm not even able to think about what's going on in my head.
I'm right.
I need that, right? And so I've luckily moved past the body thing where that's not the case so much anymore. But if it is the case, then I just stop, take a breather, sit on the floor, do what I need to do, and then come back to it. But it's kind of a balance of figuring out, do I need something that's slower so that I can like calm my sympathetic nervous system? Like, is it that kind of anxiety that I'm feeling where I'm like really kind of like hyped and you know what I mean? Where you have that energy? Or is it the kind where I need to shut my brain off and I need to be distracted in a way, in something that has nothing to do with what I'm thinking about?
Right.
So that kind of, one of the things that worked for me, like I said, like I've been talking about, is yoga. That's been huge for me. I started doing yoga more frequently around the same time I started doing Pilates, which was actually when I was in Paris. I started doing some stuff at home. And then right after that was when I had the panic attack. I continued with Pilates for a little bit over the summer, and eventually I just was like, I'm done with this. Then I went a whole year doing yoga, and I did yoga at home almost every day. And then a year and a half later, I did my yoga teacher training because it made such a big impact on me that I was like, I just want to go deeper into this and see what I can learn. And then, kind of wanted to teach people, but wasn't like super like, I'm going to be the world's best yoga teacher. Like, it wasn't really about that. So I did that, and now I am a certified yoga teacher. And then I was doing yoga at home, and now I go to a studio because as an entrepreneur, I need some extra community in my life, and I need to get out of my house. Otherwise I go stir crazy. And so again, that's where that community comes in too, right? Like, so I can have a place where I can connect with people around this thing, and they get it. And it feels good to get there and get out of the house.
Community is so important, especially, whether you're an entrepreneur, a musician, an artist in some way, shape or form, or simply a human, right? Like, community is so important, and community on your definition, nobody else's, right? Because so much of us think that community is something that has to be tangible, that we have to be able to be physically in the presence of, when oftentimes community, this is a community. And everybody that's been a part of this show in the past, and everybody that's going to be a part of the show in the future, this is all a community, from the people who are the guests, to the people who support the show behind the scenes, to I don't want to use the word fans, to the advocates who are supporting of the mission of this show. We're all a community.
Yeah.
And not even necessarily just the listeners, the people who are kind of silently behind the scenes pushing me to keep this thing going, because this is a hard thing.
Yeah.
Put it this way, I get to be a therapist an hour a week for somebody.
Yeah. And as a coach and a podcast host, I get to be a therapist for somebody like all the hours of my days and weeks.
Right.
And that's where it even comes more into play, that like, I need to take care of myself, because otherwise this shit is emotionally draining. Like, nobody said it was easy or fun, but it's important. And so that's why we have to keep going.
Absolutely. And that's why the show, when it first was airing, I was doing 2 live episodes a week.
That's a lot.
And an hour each episode, and then of course you have to promote them. You have to. It was a lot of front end work, and then it was like, oh hey, I'm getting 8 new heavy stories a month.
Yeah.
Just because it was a lot, and that's why I took a break for a bit, because it was that daunting of a mission, but it was necessary to keep going. So for me, it was taking that break and stepping aside. It was breathing and focusing on my health and all of those things that were important.
Yeah.
And it's whatever is most important to you. And even if you don't know it, work in figuring it out, because then your mission is going to be, or the most important thing will be to find the most important thing.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been interesting too, just the last maybe 2 months, because in the last 2 months, I've stepped away from what was kind of a very relatively lucrative contract. And that contract was killing me. It was literally sucking all of the creative juices out of my body and just burning them somewhere. Like I was literally dying. And then I was like, this can't keep going like this. No. And then back in a little over 2 months ago, back in early part of August, I'd written down in my journal, because I started journaling several months prior to that. And I said, I've got to get out of this place. Like, I literally wrote out of it in 4 weeks. And then 2 weeks later, they did it for me. And I'm like, and then 100 pounds lifted, right? Because I was in an area that wasn't serving me. Yeah. They knew I wasn't being served, because they're like, we are so like limiting what you have the capability of doing. And then they're like, your status with us has changed. I'm like, wait a second, I'm free? They're like, you're handling this really, really well. I'm like, yeah. And I ran back to my office and I grabbed my journal. I'm like, on the 14th that I wrote I was going to be out in 4 weeks, and it happened in 2. Like, I'm thrilled, and you're paying me to leave?
Yeah, that's
like,
the best part, is right? I manifested this. What are you talking about? I got the best deal out of here. Like,
right, like, I'm free and I have money. Like,
it's
one of those things too, because like, and I bring this up because a lot of us as artists and as creatives and as content creators and people in this world, we have things that we're passionate about. And sometimes these things that we're passionate about don't always necessarily pay the bills. So we have to do things that we're a little bit less passionate about, but those help to kind of support what we're doing, right, what we are passionate about.
Yeah.
And even in that, it's find what you love and go in on that, because you never know. Like, in the last 2 months since I've been gone, it has been absolutely fucking amazing.
Yeah. You're getting love in the comments too. Everyone's so happy for you. People say I'm the boat I'm in it. The boat I'm in right now. I mean,
the boat I'm in it. I like that the way that you phrase it.
But yeah, I mean, so many people have gone through this, right? Or are going through this, or can resonate.
Still keep going through it.
Yeah, it never ends.
Or know somebody who has gone through it. Those types of things. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I think the awareness really comes in, of like making sure that you're checking in with yourself regularly so that you know what's what. Like, what is who, what, where is not making you happy. Like, do you hate the place you live? Do you hate the people you live with? Do you hate your friends? Do you hate your job? I mean, you don't even have to hate them. That's a strong word, but like, are you?
I was gonna say I'm gonna go back and omit every version of that word that was there, because I don't like that word. Honestly, like, my kids aren't allowed to say that word, because it's like, oh, worst word in the English language. Cool, let's omit that word, because and think about it, like, that's the word that is that's the gateway drug to everything else that's negative.
Yeah, and the thing too is that when you say that. Sorry. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when you say that, it just puts the blame on the thing. But really, it's about checking in with yourself. Like, I feel like when you say I hate this job, it's like, oh, the job is terrible. But like, what about the fact that maybe you changed, or you don't want to be here, or this is not what you're aligned with? Like, it's not about anyone else or anything else. It's just about you and what you need. And, we don't have to be sorry about the fact that things changed, our interests changed. Where we feel aligned, it changes over time as we change as people and as we develop. And like, keeping in touch with that is just invaluable, because otherwise you are going to get stuck in situations where you end up saying things like, I hate my job, and you feel like you can't move from it.
And honestly, like, okay, so, and I wasn't even there that long. Like, I was there maybe 14 months total, I think is about the timeline. But in October of last year, one of the people that I got connected to actually came in there and I sarcastically say took my initial job role. Because I walk in there, my role was social media coordinator. And then they're like, you're marketing director now. I said, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Big jump.
And then I left for a little while. I went to speak at a different conference, and I came back, and they're like, oh yeah, this person's now marketing director. I'm like, the fuck? Like, that was my job. Come to find out though, this person was like very pivotal for me as like my growth as a human over this last year.
Yeah.
And introduced me to a lot along the lines of like just energy work and not necessarily yoga, because I'd had experience with that before, but definitely energy work and chakra alignments and just all of that kind of thing. And then that led me into then connecting with my guests from last week, Lydia and Ryan. I was speaking with somebody on LinkedIn, and they're like, I think you should talk to Lydia. And then actually I had a energy work session with Lydia several months ago, and I just broke down, because I was like, a lot of stuff was going on, and I'm just like, I can't do this shit anymore. And then that launched me into therapy, and like everything else that's happened from that has been so positive. But you don't know unless you go through that pain. Yeah. So a few weeks ago, somebody had asked me like, what do you do? How do you navigate your fears? I said, I don't navigate them. I literally dive headfirst into them.
I love that. I love that. I mean, I actually, to circle on this point too, like, I just left a freelance job that I was doing in addition to my business because it had nothing to do with liking it or not liking it. It was just because it was taking time away from what I really wanted to do.
Exactly.
And literally nothing to do with that. And it's fucking scary. Like, I have to explain to people what I'm doing, I don't personally believe this, but other people believe and will project their things on me that I'm now like not stable, right? Like, I left a stable thing for something that's not stable. When whatever, that's their own problem. That's their own fear that they have to overcome. But it's still scary. Now I'm diving into a world where I feel like I have to tell this dude's story. I have to tell people what I do. And what I do is I'm an entrepreneur and that's it. I don't do anything else. That's what I do. This is my full job now.
I'm an architect. I'm not even an entrepreneur. I'm an architect. I build shit for a living. I mean, because, and I just have gotten such a disdain for these kind of buzzwords, right? Like influencer, entrepreneur, because it's become part of this social media rhetoric, right? And I was actually one of the people put in the comments on Instagram. So for those of you guys who don't know, this actually broadcasts live on Facebook and Instagram, if you didn't catch that. And then so people who watch or listen to this after the fact are going to be like, why are you looking over here?
Yeah, I'm like going like this.
Right. But somebody had commented, I find that video journaling helps too. You can see the progression in tones, facial expressions, tone, posture, etc.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never tried that before.
Why do you think I started vlogging 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, go back and watch episode 1 of my vlog and then watch now, like night and day.
Yeah.
And I did it for me for a long time. And then of course, by this point in time, everybody's vlogging, right? Because fucking Gary Vee. And
that guy,
love and respect, but I can't stand him. But everybody was like, you're just doing it because he's doing it. I'm like, no, motherfucker, I'm doing this for me.
Yeah, and even if that was the case, like, who gives a shit?
So
he's like, he's pretty brilliant. So if Gary Vee says I'm going to do it, then why do you care if that's why I'm doing it? Like, I'm still doing it. Does it matter? Watch it or don't. I don't care.
and that's what it has been, because again, this brings us into the comparisonitis that you mentioned earlier. And I think that's the biggest thing plaguing a lot of us right now.
Yeah.
Is, okay, we're not at this level yet. Yeah. We're not doing this yet. Yet we failed to see how far we've come and what we actually have done, and the ability to create impact that we do truly have. That's not based in anybody else's determination other than our own.
Yeah.
And it took a lot. It's taken a lot for me to even realize it. And I'm a loud voice. I've done this for a long time. And it's just been within the last year that I actually fucking believed it. It's just been really within the last 3 months.
It takes a while. Like, it's an ongoing process.
Right. And then you leave stability, right? Like, we leave a job.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's $60,000 I'm not going to see again next year.
No, the biggest joke of it all, which I try to be upfront of, money is the other thing that I like to kind of talk about out in the open, because everyone's so fucking afraid of it, especially in the music industry, and there's no reason. But this is the biggest joke, is that I know for a fact that I'm going to make more money with the time that I got back going full time in my business than I did working for that freelance job. But it's, I know that, but like, other people don't have the trust that I have in myself, because they're not me and they're not in my brain and they're not doing what I'm doing. So can't expect them to, but like, if I don't trust myself, no one else is going to trust me either. So
bingo.
that's the stuff. I mean, and I realized this maybe 3 months ago. I was at a business event, and it was like a very intimate event with 10 people, and we were doing some work, and we were doing some mindset work, and we were just talking about this, and I came to the realization of like, there's this stuff that's happening, and business related, and do I quit my job at the time? I was thinking about it, and how do I build this? Going through all this stuff, and I just realized that like, everyone else is trying to keep me safe. And when I say everyone else, I mean like family, friends, people close to me, trying to keep me safe by being afraid for me. But I don't need anyone else to be afraid for me. Like, if I'm afraid, then I'll be afraid. If I'm not afraid, everyone else can chill the fuck out. Like, I don't need you to tell me like how I'm supposed to feel or project your own feelings onto me.
That's exactly it. I mean, how many of us in this entrepreneur space or this builder space or being an artist, how many of us have actually put so much stock in what other people are saying about us for us?
Yeah.
Like, so a little back history for those people who don't actually know my story. So I actually launched my record label 8 years ago. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but I knew two things. And those two things have carried me forward to this day. Number one, and I think everybody in the music industry can agree with me on this, the music industry is kind of fucked up. It's flawed. It's broken. It's a messed up system. And secondarily, relationships have the power to change the world. So I figured maybe, just maybe, if I could create relationships that had the power to create an impact in the world, that it might, very small, be able to make a dent in an industry that's broken.
Yeah.
And that's been the thing that's carried me forward. And now, obviously, I mean, still running the record label and bringing in new artists and doing coaching and development now, because I'm doing a lot of coaching and development now. I won't even sign artists unless they go through coaching and development, because I need to know that my time is going to be invested properly and that they're actually going to do the work, because I love artists, but y'all are lazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Generally speaking, I know there are those ones that are not. I'm connected to a lot of them and I get it. But admittedly speaking, an artist you say you run a record label and you hold that piece of paper up in front of an artist, they're like, my job is done.
Yeah, and if you're offended right now, we're not trying to offend anyone, but that means that you know you're not doing everything that you can to move forward. So, it's not about calling, labeled or calling anyone lazy or whatever, making you feel bad. It's not about that. It's just about like, listen, this music industry is tricky. Like, if you want to make it as an artist, you have to work hard and you have to do what you can to overcome that fear, to, work. And this is why, I'm doing this free mindset masterclass on Monday, because I really, really, really believe that success has nothing to do with implementing the marketing strategy or getting the publishing deal or getting the label or whatever. It has to do with what is going on in your brain, because if you don't overcome this mindset stuff and you don't stop worrying about what people are thinking about you and stop focusing on the self-doubt and the comparisonitis and things like that, you're gonna be stuck in this place forever. I mean, yeah, you'll move forward slowly, but like, you can make leaps and bounds and really hit that success that you want if you actually work on the real stuff that's holding you back. And it's not connecting with your Instagram followers. It's working through the terrible shit that goes on in your head that comes up when you're about to release an album or you're about to do an Instagram story. And then all of a sudden you say, oh my God, but nobody really wants to hear this. Nobody cares about what I'm saying. What am I doing? Why do I do music anyway? I should just give up right now.
So funny story. I'm working with this band now. I'm doing some coaching and development with them. They're a band out of Dallas, Texas /Austin, called Heart of the City. And so one of the frontmen for that band, his name's Paco. And so Paco and I were doing a coaching call last night, kind of very similar setup to how you and I are talking right now. And we had this conversation around like, okay, the fact of the matter is the people that love your music exist.
Yeah.
They do. You have to tell them that it's fucking there. How many of us as creatives and as artists don't actually tell people that this is what we do?
Everyone's afraid to self-promote because it's like,
it's not even self-promote. They'll promote all day long, but they won't be a human in their promotion.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
They won't say, hey guys, like, so I'm working on this thing. I'm not sure if you guys are liking it. I hope you guys will. Like, I know I like it. But so what I actually did, and I'm going to post this video up on my Instagram after this episode is done tonight. It's basically me with him on the screen, like on my computer screen, doing this with my phone, saying like, holy shit, there have been all these people who have said happy birthday to me over the last fucking 3 days because my birthday was Monday. Not eliciting a happy birthday from anybody. Like, that's not why I said that.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. But the point being is like, I've responded thank you and all that kind of shit to like in comments and stuff like that, but I've never actually said thank you to everybody. So like, that's just me saying, I literally recorded a video in like, because he's like, I don't know how to not just promote shows. I'm like, you just need to have a fucking conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
And be real. Like, my whole thing is just being honestly me. Like, no matter where, I mean, Katie, you've met me in real life. You've seen me speak in real life. You're seeing me speak now here. You've consumed my content on social media. I'm the same person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had a client too, who was doing a crowdfunding campaign, and she had a lot of really great stuff planned out, and she was going through it. But of course, once you get to the end of that kind of stuff, it starts to get like, oh my God, how do I keep going with this? I feel like I'm saying the same thing. I feel like I'm asking the same people. What do I do? And I said, what are you feeling right now? And we had been talking about a little bit of like imposter syndrome kind of stuff that's coming up and stuff like that. And I said, just talk about that. Just get on and say, hey, like, get on a live video, or if you don't feel comfortable, record a video or put it in the email, like whatever the way that you best communicate is. Get there and say, hey, we're almost at the end, and I got to tell you, this is how I'm feeling. This is a really scary thing. Like, I have spent the last 2 months talking about this and asking you to donate, and it means so much to me. And like, this is what I'm feeling, yada, yada, yada. Not going to give away my secrets. No, I'm just kidding. But, but like, I just told her, like, be real. And she did it. The next day I got an email from her that was phenomenal. Literally just being honest. And now I think she reached her goal. It ends tonight. So, I'll put it in my stories actually. But, you know, like, she's going to do it. She's going to do it. But we feel the need to suppress this stuff, right? Like, behind the scenes, we're putting out all this fancy content about the music video and what happened, and, you know, donate to the campaign and do this and please give me money, my music. But like, behind the scenes, we're feeling like, I don't deserve this. It feels really icky to ask people for money, whatever. But why don't we just talk about that? Like, why don't we just be honest about how we're feeling? Like, just, if that's how you're feeling, come to the surface and say, I know this is really weird that I'm asking you for money right now, but let me just share genuinely what this means to me and what this will do and the purpose behind it. Because we all have that purpose. We just don't talk about it. We just put on like a pretty face and ask people to buy stuff from us or give us money and then leave it at that. But that is not what people resonate with. I mean, that's the whole marketing conversation too. Like, almost like marketing from the heart as opposed to what you think you're supposed to do. But dang, we need to just like connect with each other. Like, use what's coming from your heart instead of doing what you think you're supposed to do or what you feel people need to hear. People need to hear something they resonate with.
They need to hear you being a human.
Yeah.
Right. And I think in this world of overly produced content with specific, hey, we want you to take this piece of value from it. Like, we live in that kind of world right now. So how do you counterbalance that world, or how do you balance that out? By actually being vulnerable, by being like, hey, this is what's going on, by showing the outtakes, by showing the mistakes, by being human. You've automatically made yourself more connected to those people you're trying to connect more with. It's a fancy concept. I know we're running out of time on Instagram, and Instagram's going to boot us off here in a minute, because unless they've changed their algorithm, it's still an hour.
Okay.
It's 60 minutes. So, but we can keep going a little bit over on Facebook. But tell me at least one thing that's exciting in your world right now.
Definitely.
Other than the masterclass on Monday.
Yeah, I would say definitely just like, honestly, not to be cheesy, but it's like my business. Like, I literally just, like, this is my first week as a full-time entrepreneur. We got booted. Okay.
We can keep it going on Facebook, and then obviously this is going to be shared everywhere else and that kind of thing. I had a feeling that was going to happen because I knew we were running up against the clock. But,
we got a little preachy there. We need to.
But it's necessary though. Like, I don't mind getting preachy, and it's all because we believe in each and every one of you who are part of this community, who are part of your own communities that may not even be a part of this community yet, but might be looking forward. People who are doing the work, being pragmatic in their ability to drive forward, because this shit's not easy.
Yeah.
This, and then struggling with mental health issues. Like, we know that anxiety, depression, alcoholism, eating disorders, all of this stuff stems because you're not being you. You're having to be something else for someone else.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
And so when you address that problem, things then can be rectified. And for me, it was, holy shit. Okay, cool. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm an architect. I'm a builder thing, and I'm gonna go for it. And I haven't. I mean, granted, it's only been 2 months, almost going on 3 months, but I haven't looked back. And it's knowing that, okay, you got to take the leap in order for it to work. Because maybe the label not growing the way that I've wanted it to for the last 8 years has been because I've not grown the way I've needed to for the last 8 years, or not with your business not getting to the level that you wanted to. It's because you haven't allowed yourself to get to that level.
Yeah.
And like this show, I limited this show from the fucking beginning, and it pissed me off because my goal was I want to impact one person an episode. No, like that was the initial one. And then Grant Cardone kicked my ass earlier this year. And I'm like, why did I say I only want one? No, I want everybody to know and everybody to listen, because I don't care if you're struggling with it or not. You might know somebody who is.
Yeah.
And I lost a friend 2 weeks ago due to complications with drugs. And I took onus of that on myself because I didn't reach out. Now I know I had nothing to do with it, but the fact of the matter is I am an advocate and I'm a voice in this type of thing. And I failed. I didn't reach out. Now, would I have been able to prevent what happened? Probably not. But the fact of the matter is like we limit ourselves too damn much, and I want to see it stop. Like, fucking just do it.
Yeah.
And so, tell me a couple more exciting things, and then we'll wrap up and let everybody go from the current recording and then all of that stuff. So.
I mean, I think on that note, for me, it's just really exciting. Like, I literally just took this leap into full-timeness. And, in years past, it's always been like, when is the next day off from work? Oh, how joyous. I have the week between Christmas and New Year off. I'm like, yay.
I can go all in for 6 days.
Yeah, but now I get to do whatever the fuck I want. And I'm really excited to spend the last 2 months of the year doing just that. And I already feel changes happening. I already feel it happening. And I'm really excited to also be able to like balance that with time off when I feel like it, and like celebrating my birthday and celebrating the holidays, however I feel like it, because it's all on my terms now. So
and
I'm
sleeping.
Yeah, I love sleep. I really do. I sleep like
that was a weird thing for me. I'm like, I don't have to be at the office at 8.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Weird. So like I'm 3 days a week I'm in Chicago, 2 days a week I'm here working out of my home office, and it's like the days I'm in Chicago, it's like, fuck, I got to get up and go to the office. But it's like, okay, cool. I love the people that I'm with. I love the work that we're doing. We're creating impact. We're doing all the things. Yeah. But on the days where I'm like, I'm home, I'm like, get the kids off the bus, off to school. And then I'm like, I'm going to go back to sleep.
Yeah, or I'm going
to go meditate and then end up falling asleep.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I wake up at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and I'm like, okay. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a game changer for me, I'll say, because I need a lot of sleep to function. As you may recall, I do not drink coffee. I do not do stimulants. So, like, it's really helpful for me to get a good night's sleep. So that's a priority. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to just building. This is going to sound really lame, maybe, that, like, I'm looking forward to building a new routine. But for me, it lights me up to have, like, a really fucking fun routine that I want to wake up and do every day, and like going to yoga, seeing my friends, going to work. And then I want to do other things. Like I want to take drum lessons, and I want to possibly do a tap class. And I'm like, now I can like actually make that stuff happen as I go along, because I know the rules. I make the rules. So I'm pumped for that kind of stuff.
Awesome. So as we get ready to wrap up here, because I want to be respectful of your time and everybody else's time, including my own. Where is the best place for people to connect with you? What's the best place?
Yeah, definitely Instagram. I'm not really hanging out on Facebook too much. So if you want to connect, you can connect with me on Instagram at Katie Zaccardi. And that's also my website. So on my website, it has more information about, I'm an artist too, which we didn't even talk about, but music.
And people are like, an hour is too long, right? I'm like, no, it's not.
I mean, that's not really relevant here. And that's not that's not what I'm doing right now. So, I mean, whatever. Anyway, if you feel like listening to my music, that's there. Information on coaching. I also have a podcast all on mental health and wellness in the music industry, which is called the Out to Be podcast. So you can find that wherever you listen to podcasts, also on my website. On that's a great place. I would say Instagram and my podcast are the two places where I'm hanging out and like connecting with people and giving as much value as I can. I love the podcast as a vehicle to do that. Just like, this one, it's so good to have these longer form conversations and really get into stuff. So those are the two biggest places. And I also have a newsletter. I send out a newsletter every Wednesday called the Weekly Exhale that just has like wellness tips and fun stuff to help you on your wellness journey. So you can sign up for that as well.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. One last word of wisdom or words of wisdom for everybody. I'm trying to find like my outro thing. Like, Lewis Howes has got like the 3 things that you would leave behind if you can't like that kind of thing. I'm trying to find my own because I don't want to steal his.
You're trying this out, see how it feels.
I've done it a couple of times, and then I've got my little outro thing that I say. But it's if you were to say one thing like to leave behind to everybody else, what would it be?
I know we covered this, but it really would be don't be afraid to ask for what you need. Because it's really in the simplest situations I found that saving me. Sometimes I get really anxious about heat sometimes. And so even as a musician, we'll bring it full circle. Now we'll loop it in. As a musician, sometimes I've been in music gigs. I've been at gigs and felt like nervous and hot. And sometimes asking for what I need is literally asking the bar person, like, can you turn the AC like up? I need it to be cooler in here. Simple shit like that can just change the game when you take a deep breath and speak up and ask for what you need. So that's one of my biggest lessons.
Wow. I like that one. That's a bit of your own mic drop moment. Awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So I know tonight was an odd, like, what are you doing on a Wednesday? You're usually doing this on a Tuesday, or you're like, I don't know what fucking day it is because like I'm listening to this and it's been 3 weeks later. I don't know. But we will be back next Tuesday with another special guest, yet to be determined. I've got to kind of go through my monster list of people who want to be guests because the amount of support that I keep getting for this show is surreal. But on that note, I'm going to kind of end with a little, I don't say mantra, it's not a mantra statement. It is as follows. Number 1 is find happiness. However you need to do it, or you find it. Number 2 is have fun because we all know life is way too damn short. And last but certainly not least, the 3rd is work. Because anything and everything in life that's worth a damn takes actual physical blood, sweat, and tears level of effort. But in between those moments, in between finding your happiness, having some fun, and putting in the work, make sure that you take time to breathe. Even if you just say that word once a day, it does that really cool thing where it actually forces you to breathe. So on that note, I will leave you guys for this time, and we'll be back next week. Thanks.